I come at this from a little bit different perspective. I'm very much a free market guy. A lot of people look at the websites of my various companies that I'm the chairman and CEO of, and you see that we're very strong in the wind business. It happens to be the reason why I'm strong in the wind business is because that's the flow of the current of the energy markets today. That's where the money is going. I've been part of the retail electricity business going all the way back to 2000 when Texas went through their restructuring. When you look at states that have had retail electricity choice, you find that the energy charge in those states by all means stagnates, meaning does not go up anymore, and by most purposes it goes down. It comes from competition. The charts that I provided, the blue bar is Kansas, I think green is Nebraska, I think Iowa is kind of a lighter orange, and then down at the very bottom is Mid-American Energy. Now what I think is really interesting about that, when you start talking about the issue of rate increases, it's obvious that Kansas has outpaced several states. But I think what's very interesting is when you look at those bottom brighter orange bars, that's Mid-American Energy in Iowa. I have been told, I think Iowa's about 35% wind right now. The idea of building more wind having an adverse effect on retail electricity rates is very confusing to me, because from the perspective of somebody that writes a lot of big checks to build power generation, I cannot build new power generation unless I have access to the power lines. The thing that I find interesting about saying that building more wind has caused the cost of transmission to go up is very, very confusing to me, because I have to pay to use the power line. So if you build a power line and you cost structure the power line and then I pay to use it and then you're raising rates on somebody, that tells me that you didn't do your math. This is where Kansas falls into the rankings nationally for percentage of rate increases year over year. The column that I think is very interesting is this third one from the left, which is competitive and non-competitive states. And if you notice, the states that have scored the best for the least amount of rate increases over the past, I believe it goes back about 10 years, you see it's the competitive states. Competitive states have been the ones who've kept their rates in check. What I do think is very interesting about that is down at the very bottom for the percentage of rate increases year over year is Texas. And Texas has 17,000 megawatts of wind.
But from an energy perspective, wind has driven down cost because there's just more energy than load.
So the 23% of wind that of electricity in Kansas that's generated from wind, a large part of that is for export.
So as somebody who has close to $1 billion worth of wind under various stages of development getting ready to go to construction in the next 18 to 24 months, I can tell you that the economics on wind have changed substantially, and they will be changing even more. Speaking in the context of intermittency and the intermittent nature of wind, we have wind assets that are operating somewhere in the area of 55, upwards close to 60% net capacity factor, which means in an 8,760-hour year, they're operating somewhere in the areas of 55% for all practical purposes. So what you see is up until about 2008, the cost of energy was outpacing the amount of rate increases for the lines and wires carriers. Interestingly enough, you see a very precipitous drop in the beginning of 2009, and that's very easy to identify. All you've got to do is roll back about 18 to 24 months, and you will realize that that's when the natural gas fracking started in Texas in a very big way. And that started to drive the price of electricity down in Texas fast. At that exact same period of time, we started to see a little phenomena happen in the ERCOT marketplace. We have something called Texas Power to Choose, which is a web portal where you can go pick your retail electricity providers. There's hundreds of electricity offers out there, all the way from 100% green to pretty much whatever poison you want. The night gets colder, your AC unit turns off, but the wind farms continue to run. So what they've come to now is we have free nights and weekends, where if you agree to a fixed price during the daytime, you get free nights and weekends the rest of the calendar year. I'm just advocating for a little bit better options for the energy buyers to inoculate themselves, not against all rate increases, but against some rate increases. It's just a shame that you don't have unbundled electricity retail billing so that you can actually see on everybody's electricity bills what you pay in comparison to everybody else's bills. back of the envelope math tells me that Kansans overpay for electricity by somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion a year. We're going to be doing some very substantial studies and white papers to drill into that, so we're talking about facts and not lore. My deliverable to this audience and to people of Kansas is you need to push hard for unbundled billing at the legislative level and have a statewide mandate of what a standardized unbundled billing looks like so that Kansans can have a really, truly intelligent conversation about rates. I think the business of building big wind farms is going to be reserved to a very, very specific need. The next generation of energy battles that these gentlemen are going to have to confront as lines and wires carriers is going to be distributed generation.